So here I am, once again, I've got my reference image in front of me, and I'm just going to continue working on the outlining step. I've got my thicker Sharpie handy as well, because I am going to be coloring in some of this outline, because on this particular example, a lot of the outlining is thicker, and it is black. So you'll see right here, I picked up my pen in the middle of the curve, and you can see that it makes it kind of irregular and makes me have sort of a starting and stopping point. So the best thing to do, if you do accidentally do that, is to try to smooth that line out. Even if that means you have to make it a little bit thicker in certain places. So now it at least looks intentional and looks like a smooth curve there. So one other important thing to notice is that you will see a lot of times when I'm making these curves, I'm not just using my wrist. I'm moving my entire arm along that curve, because what that does is help you make sure that you are making things as smooth as you can. If you just use your wrist, you actually won't have as much control over where the pen is going. Whereas if you use your whole arm for that movement and you look at where the line is with your eye, then you are far more likely to actually get that line in accurately where you want it. So again, doing each curve in its own line as much as possible, picking up my pen between lines, turning the page as needed. Double checking my reference image here. So this edge is straight. So I am going to go ahead and go back in with my ruler and straighten up and clean up those lines so that they look more accurate. Let's see, this part is curved a little bit more. And then this one is straight. Coming over here to the E and the H area. These lines are straight, so I'm just going to make sure that I'm using my ruler. And then this one is kind of curved here, but then it goes straight up. And then this curves down pretty straight, but not 100% straight. So I'm not going to use my ruler there. Same thing on this part of the H. And then this R also has a bit of a curve to it. And you'll see I made a correction here because I had this part coming up too high. It actually goes a little bit straighter across. There's not this little bump here. So I just kind of took that out. I brought that out a little bit further because when I'm looking at my reference image, I see that it goes a little bit wider. So I'm just going to make sure that mine matches. And then I'm going to use my ruler again on this part of the H because it is a straight line. Same thing up at the top. This one kind of curves down a bit here, but then it does get straight again. And then curves this way. And then this one is a little curved. So at the top, this part curves in, and then this part curves out. This part is straight across. And then it kind of dips down, across, and up. And then that part of the A, the top of the outline of the A, is straight across. So I'll use my ruler again. And then this part is actually curved down into that outer part of the D. And then once again, we know that the D and the S here are curved. So I'm just going to carefully go over those pencil lines. So there I've got sort of the outline of the word, the outer part of it, some of the inner part. I've got the outline of the cloud completely finished. I have not started on the inner part of the face yet, but I'm going to go ahead and finish up with the words, or I could go ahead and work on the face. For the interest of the video, I'm going to go ahead and work on the face a little bit, just so you guys get to see some variety in the outlining and see sort of more of the progression of the piece. So obviously on the inside of the face, it's really important that I'm looking at my reference image because I don't want to put a stopper line where I don't need one. What I mean by that is if there's not a separation between an outline and another part of an outline, I want to make sure that I don't put one there. Because I know that the face is a pretty light color. So if I make any mistakes in my outlining, it's going to show up a little bit more. So I want to make sure that I'm very careful with my outlining and make sure that I'm putting it where it needs to be and not putting any extra lines. And I will say some people will, if they're not completely sure where a line needs to be at this point, you can absolutely wait on adding that line until you're even in the coloring steps and the shading steps. If you feel a little bit uncertain, but you think that as you are coloring, that will help you become more certain, it's okay to wait on the coloring steps there. Now, because a lot of these lines that I'm working on, like even on the inside of the ear, because they are all connected, but they are all black, it's okay if I have all these little separate sections. If the outline were a different color, however, like if the whole outline was blue and I was outlining in black, I would not necessarily separate the cheek and the ear in all of these separate little spots. Same thing up here on this side. I would not separate the ear and the face if the outline was not black. So hopefully that helps it make a little bit more sense for you. Now on large round shapes, like these eyes, it's very important to go slowly and to be as careful as you can. I know the curves are a little bit tricky to get exact, so I definitely recommend not talking and sort of focusing while you are working on those. And one thing you can look for is like these spots where the eyes join. That's a point. So that could be a safe place to pick up your pen before you continue along that curve. And I'm just going to turn my page into a position where it's comfortable for me to make this curve. I'm going to start at the point, I'm going to go across, and I'm not going to talk. So I went from point to point, and then I'm going to go ahead and turn my page and connect those points so that that part of the eye would be done. It may not be a 100% perfect outline, but when I'm going to fill in my spaces, when I'm filling in that shape, I can always smooth out the outline as needed. So again, be careful not to just do it with your wrist. You do definitely want to make sure you're using your whole arm. And so you see here, my pen did that thing again. So I'm just going to kind of go back in. I'm going to smooth that out as best I can. And just remember that I can smooth it out even more once I am on more of the shading and the filling in steps. One of the most important things is just don't get discouraged if you do make a mistake, or if something doesn't look as good as you had hoped. Just do the very best that you can to make it look better. We can always work with something. So if you make a mistake or you're unhappy with something, don't let it get you down. We'll be able to make it better. Trust me. So then here, because this part of the lip is black and my pen did its weird little thing again, I'm just going to go ahead and color this space in. Because that's eventually what most of the outline is going to be looking like anyway. And then I'm going to continue on my lettering up here. So this part of the H is a pretty straight line actually. So I am going to go ahead and add my ruler in again. But then it does curve here. And then this one is a bit of a curve as well. That does curve a little bit, so I did not use my straight edge. This one curves down and up. And then this part of the H is straight, so I will use my ruler. It's going to curve again. And then this part is actually straight as well. So is the bottom part of that H.